Hello there, Jay here. Welcome back to another training video. So in this video, right, I will be guiding you on how to conduct or how to do an audit on your Google Analytics. So early on, we mentioned about the importance of Google Analytics. So if you didn't watch that video, please go ahead and watch that video before you start this. And the reason why you want to audit this is to make sure that first of all, you have Google Analytics set up. Second of all, if it's set up, it needs to be set up correctly. And this is an audit for Google Analytics, not GA4, because as of this moment, GA4 is still, Google Analytics is still not phased out yet. So we are still currently using this process. However, this could be obsolete by 2023. So it really depends on when you're watching this, but some of the concepts will be similar. So what you can do is I've included a template that you can make a copy, and essentially this is the template that you'll be seeing, and I'll be showing you step by step on what to do, what we look out for, and other stuff like that. All right, so without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So the first things first is obviously you need to make a copy of this. So again, the link will be in the resources below. And essentially this is the checklist you kind of have to go through, and then this is the list here. So let me walk through with you step by step. So the first thing is obviously you make a you make a copy, and you can rename this to whatever that you want. And then once this is checked, you can just click check. You can check it off. Okay, and some of the things that you will need is a Chrome extension. So for example, you will need a Google Tag Assistant, this Chrome extension. So if you do not already have it, so I've uninstalled it for some reason, but I'm going to install it again. So yeah, so get that installed. So once this is installed, just click on OK. And then next up is you want to see the website version. So there are multiple different website versions, but you want to key in the website's version there. And what I mean by website version is if you Google your brand, okay, you want to look at the first result that shows the client's website, okay? And is the website with or without the version? So is it www.trev.com or is it just trev.com? Okay, so for example, if I go over to Google right now, okay, if I go to Google and I type in, okay, so I'm typing you can type in your brand, you can type in your website, right? But what you're gonna do is you're gonna see, like for example, this is the link, right? And you can see this is the link that is showing up, https trev.com. So this is without the version. Okay, and the reason why you want to do this, right, is because you want to make sure that your Google Analytics is tracking the correct version of the site. And this again, this is with regards to consistency. So a lot of times when we're dealing with data, we want to make sure that the data that we are extracting the data from, in a way, the points are consistent. So if we are tracking the website for the version, we want to make sure that across all of the things that we are tracking will be version. And if it's not the version, then we want to make sure all of the things that we are tracking will not be on the version. Okay, and as much as you can, we want to make sure that it's as consistent as possible. So again, we want clean data. So you can see this is trev.com. So this is without So all you have to do is just go back here. Okay, and in this case, the version is not the version. So what you can do is just you can simply copy this link address and you can paste it in here. Okay, and just hit done. And then what you want to do, right, is you want to check to see if well, in this case, because we use this template to carry out all the SEO work for our clients, that's why you can see if a client has subdomains. But if you're doing this for your own website, you can just simply you will know whether your website has any subdomains. Now, for our website, for my website, I know I don't, so I'm gonna indicate as no. And the reason why you select this over here is because some of these part will be auto-populated when you select this. Okay. Also, another good habit I have for you guys is a lot of these templates. What happens is because of how SEO gets updated over time, right? You want to make sure to learn a little bit about how Google Sheets work, because when template change, when the algorithm change or when what's important change, so does your process and so does your method. So this template that you see over here, this is the template that we are using as of this moment, but this is not the template that we start out with. And similar with all of the templates that I'll be giving you guys, right? All of these templates will change again and again and again. And the reason why is because the algorithms update and there are changes again and again. And that's why the process that you see here, what you see here might not always work like 1 year or 2 years down the road, simply because of the nature of how SEO is. Okay, so my tip for you is to learn. You don't have to be a guru, or you don't have to be a professional at Google Sheets. You only need to learn the basics like conditional formatting, like sorting, like I'm not an expert in Google Sheets, but you just need to learn the basic stuff like coming up with all this is learned by on YouTube. So that's always a good thing for you to know, because you're dealing with a lot of data and you're dealing with a lot of processes. So that's just my tip for you guys. Okay, so you want to include in subdomains. Now, if you have subdomains, what you want to do is you want to key in the subdomains here. So for example, if I have a subdomain, let's say for example, let's say A at Trev. Oh, sorry, not A at Trev. But if I have one subdomain and the subdomain is something like blog, for example, right? blog.trev.com, you want to list it down here. If you have multiple, like I don't know, landing page, for example, .trev.com, you want to basically list them down over here. Okay, so this is to keep track. Now, if you do not know, if you're auditing this for a website and you do not know whether they have subdomain or not, you can just go over to thing like that. You can do for example the website.com, and then you can basically go through the results here to see whether if there is any subdomains. If they don't, then it's perfectly fine. Okay, so in this case, I know my website, so there is no subdomains. The next thing is you want to check to see if you have any third-party payment processor. So what do I mean by third-party payment processor? If you have any kind of PayPal, if you are allowing people to purchase things on your website and you are sending them to a third-party payment processor like PayPal, for example, or any kind of processor that you're using, right? You want to include them in here. Okay, so for example, if it's PayPal, just list down PayPal. If it's I don't know, if Stripe, okay. And what I mean is all the payment processors that you have within your website. So you just want to list them down here. Okay, if there isn't, just click no. Okay, next one is any third-party payment, any third-party portals here. Okay, it can be payment portals. Payment portals we already covered here. So this is third-party payment, third-party portal domains. So what do I mean by third-party? So for example, if you're using any sort of form capturing or a calendar page, where as long as you're sending somebody from your page to another page to take an action, that would mean a third-party portal. Okay, so for example, if you have a calendar form that you are allowing people to book calendar, and what you're doing is you are getting the user to book an appointment on the calendar page, where the user is going off on your off from your website directly, then you want to list down the website here. So for example, if it's Calendarly, right, or if it's XXX, you want to list down all the domains here. Okay, for example, if you do not have it, just simply click no. Okay, and all this will make sense later on. And then you want to see if this is this website is an e-commerce website. Okay, if it's yes, just click yes. If it's no, just click no. And then last but not least is you want to check whether it's Google Analytics setup. So I'm not going to go through the setting up video of Google Analytics. And the reason why is because I think there are already a lot of ways on how you can do it, and it's pretty simple to set up. So by me showing you the audit will be more important, because ideally if you're learning SEO, I would assume that most of you guys will already have Google Analytics set up in place, and if you already have that, then I think it's more important to show you what it's going wrong or what could go wrong. And also, if you don't have it set up, I think this video will be able to help you, because when you're setting up, you know what things to look out for, so you don't set up wrongly. So I think this kind of it's a two-bird one stone, two bird kind of analogy. Okay, so if you do not have it already, if you do not have Google Analytics set up, you want to make sure to set this up first. Okay, and if you have it set up, just click yes. If you don't, just click no. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna click yes because I already set it up. Now, next thing you want to go to is you want to go under this. Once you get this all checklist all done, right? You want to go over here. So this is some of the things that we will be tracking, and this is what we use in our agency to make sure that the basics are set up properly. Okay, and over here, these are the items that we'll be looking at. This is the audit, and then this is the audit decision. Okay, and also whether if something is pass or fail. So if something is pass, if something passes, this will be a green. If something fails, this will be a red. Again, my advice for you is to learn a little bit of Google Sheets so that you'll be able to generate your own templates. Because end of the day, when you're working on a campaign, some campaigns are very, you want a tool to be able to work for you, right? So that's why if you have these Google Sheets, you learn a little bit about Google Sheets, about conditional formatting, it will really benefit you in the long run. Okay, and ultimately in the future, you might be creating your own templates as well. Okay, and the next one you can see is recommendations. So for example, what are the recommendations that we, because we are doing this for clients, right? We have a recommendation where we either ask the client to remove this, add this, and certain things like that. And then implementation will be basically implementing, if you are implementing this or any implementation notes here, you can have this. And if it's not required, you can just delete this. Okay, and also reviews. Okay, who is the one reviewing the implementation, and then if there's any notes. So that's how we use it in our agency. You can go ahead and delete all those that is not required. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through it step by step over here. So the first one, it's Google Analytics code. Is Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager tracking code on the website. Now, if you're doing this for your own website, it's going to be really easy for you to learn because you know that you have set it up. But if this is no, okay, I think this will change. No, so it's not changing. So never mind. So if let's say the tracking code is not set up. So if you are doing this for a client, then you will not know, or if you're doing this for a potential client, then you will not know whether if something is set up correctly or not, right? So that's why we have that Chrome extension in play. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to go over to the website, open up the website, and you're going to see, so if I bring this slow here, okay, you will see a extension, okay, and you basically want to click on this extension. And yeah, so once this extension is there, let me just pin it. So this is the extension that you have installed earlier. So all you have to do is click enable, and what you need to do is you need to reload the page. So what this does is this will show you all the tag that has been installed here. So as you can see over here, there are no errors here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to check is Analytics or Google Tag Manager tracking code installed on the website. So in this case, it's yes, right? So you can see Google Ads Remarketing, Google Analytics, and Google Tag Manager. All this has been installed. So you want to go ahead and mark it as yes. Now, if it's no, then obviously the recommendation will be to install Google Analytics on the website or Google Tag Manager on the website. Okay. And then the next thing you want to look for is you want to check if there is multiple duplicated tracking codes. Okay. And the reason why this is important is because you don't want to have multiple tracking codes, because this will give you incorrect or inaccurate data. Because if you have two tracking codes, what's going to happen is when I come to your website, instead of registering it once, it's going to register twice because I have two different tracking codes in a way. Right, so you want to remove any duplicate tracking code. So in this case, for example, if it is not showing any duplication of tracking codes, but usually if there is an error, there will be an error here where it shows you multiple tracking code. And what you need to do is, in this case, I'm a yes. I'm a no. Okay, so you can see if you filter this to a yes, it gets flagged as a red color. Now, is there any ways for you to solve this? There is, obviously. So if there are multiple tracking codes, and again, if this is your website, you will kind of know whether what you have done with the site, right? And sometimes when you're working in a team, you are kind of overtaking the project, And if you do this for your own website and you see that there's multiple tracking codes, then you want to go in and identify what are the multiple tracking codes and remove the one that it's not required, right? So you want to decide on one and remove the other one that is not required. Okay, so again, this recommendations again will be to remove UA, for example, and you want to see, let's say, for example, if this tracking code is not required, you just want to copy this, okay, copy this UA code, and then you just want to paste it here, for example, okay, remove this one and then keep the other one, right? So that is for multiple tracking codes, and again, the Chrome extension will be able to show you the arrows. And then the next one is Google Analytics tracking the correct version of the site? So earlier on, like I mentioned, you see this is the correct version of the site, right? So what you want to do is you want to go over to your Google Analytics, okay, and you want to head down over to admin, and you want to just go over to your property settings, and you can see this is the property name, okay, and also the default URL. Now, default URL, you can see there are a few different options. There's a HTTP, HTTPS, and you can see you can insert a www version, but this should be consistent with the website version that you have seen over here, okay? And again, like I mentioned earlier, this is all to make sure that you are working with consistency throughout your entire campaign, okay? So just make sure this is correct, okay? So if now, for example, if this is www, okay, if I come into my website and I see my settings is set up in this way, okay, and it's www, then this will be a fail, right? So this will be a no, and then the recommendation will be obviously to go in and fix it. But in this case, it's a yes because it's set up correctly, okay? And also at the same time, we want to make sure that it's HTTPS, provided, you know, your website should be secure. It 100% should be secured. If it's not, you want to get an SSL certificate for your website, okay? So this should be HTTPS. Okay, now with that being done, we can move on to the next one. Now you can see if there are subdomains here. Okay, now if there are subdomains here, so for me there is no, so I don't have to track this, but if there are subdomains here, let me see, where should I go to? All right, so for subdomain tracking, if there is no subdomain, you can skip this part. But if you do have a subdomain, what you want to do, right, is you want to make sure that your subdomains are being tracked properly. And how you can do that is, first of all, you want to go up. I have listed a resource here, so you can go in and follow this resource here. But if you want to make sure to track your subdomains, right, all you do is you go over to your analytics, and then you click on admin, and under tracking info, you want to look at referral exclusion list. Okay, and what you need to do is you need to include in your website here. So in this case, for example, trav.com, okay, and the reason why is because you don't want people to land on your website, and then when they browse certain part of your website, they go over to, say, for example, your blog.trav.com, and then when they come back to your website, they get registered as a new user again. So you don't want to have that happen. So you need to make sure to have your domain name in here, so Google Analytics will automatically exclude people coming within different areas of your subdomains, okay? So this is for referral exclusion list. You need to ensure that your domain name is here. And then in order for you to track, to make sure how you're tracking this domain, okay, all you have to do is just follow this to make sure that the subdomain is being tracked properly. Now, the simple terms is you want to go over to your analytics, and you basically want to look at okay, let me walk you through it. Let me walk you through together. So if we go over to let's say acquisition, let's see. So we select, let me see, what should we select first? Under audience, so we're gonna go over to audience, and we're gonna go to technology, and we're going to go to network. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to select date, and then we're going to click this. Okay, and then what we're going to do is click secondary dimension, and we're going to click on host name. Okay, so in this case, it's subdomain listed. So you can see, like for mine, there is no subdomain, so that's why there is no subdomain being listed here. But if there are subdomains, right, you will be able to see like your subdomains are being tracked over here. So again, if you want to know how to set this up properly with subdomains, just make sure you are going through this piece of resource here, because it's somewhat more advanced. So I'm going to leave it out of this video. But as long as your subdomains or your referral exclusion list has your main domain, it shouldn't be an issue. It should not cause duplication of data. And the reason why I included this in here, right, is because I've met a lot of websites, especially for some of our clients, right? They have multiple subdomains, but they don't include it within their exclusion list. And what happens is, every single time when somebody lands on their website and then they go to their subdomain and they come back to their website, it gets registered as multiple users, which shouldn't be the case. Okay, so again, I've left the resources here. Just go in and take a look for yourself. Okay, because I'm not sure how many subdomains you have. Okay, so the resources here. So if domain is excluded, if it's included in referral exclusion, so here is yes. So earlier on, like I show you, under referral exclusion list, you want to make sure that your domain is here. Okay, so next up will be, are there any third-party payment processors? So for me, it's no, right? If there is, then what you want to do is you want to include the payment party processor here. Okay, and the reason why is because just like how the subdomain works, it's kind of the same thing. If somebody lands on my website and if I'm selling certain stuff and I'm sending people to another website to complete that transaction, and then they get redirected back to my website, what happens is, if you don't set this up, you're gonna see from your analytics, you're gonna see PayPal is sending you traffic, which isn't the case, because people don't come from PayPal to your website. They only do that because you're sending them over there to complete the payment or the whatever event it is, whether is it to submit a form or to complete the purchase, and then they are getting redirected back to your site. So these are not considered new users. So you want to make sure to exclude them in your referral exclusion list so that Google Analytics don't treat them as new users and they don't register them as new users. Okay, so similar with your payment processor, and this is also similar with other third-party portals you are using, whether if it's a calendar, whether if it's a booking site or any similar context. Okay, so if the payment processor, if there is, you want to make sure that it's included in your referral exclusion list. Again, this part here, and you can insert in the domain. Okay, so for example, you can just put paypal.com, right? And then they will exclude any list from PayPal, for example. Okay, and then similar with third-party portals like Jot Forms. If you're using Forms, if you're using and I don't know what portals that you'll be using, right? But just basically include them in there. So next one is you want to set up internal traffic filter. Okay, so internal traffic filter, it's more like a optional thing if you ask me. Okay, and this will really depend on how big your team is. So what essentially is internal traffic filter is basically you want to filter out people within your team that is visiting your site. Okay, and the reason why is because if you have a big team, for example, or if you consistently go into your website to see the changes and to see what changes you have been making, and then your team members do the same thing, they just go and browse your website on a daily basis, what's going to happen is Google will still be tracking all these people as users, because that's how Google Analytics work. But if you have an internal filter set up, what's going to happen is you're going to tell Google Analytics to exclude all these people from your analytics. So this will give you a cleaner data to work with because you are filtering out all internal traffic. Okay, and there's a couple of ways for you to do this. The first one will be to set up blocking IP. So yeah, so with how to set up internal filter, all you do is go over to admin section, and then you want to head over to filters here. Okay, so you can see filters here. Click on filters, and then what you can do is you can add a filter. So what this does is, for example, internal team, right? Let's say, for example, it's me, Jaden, for example. Okay, and then I want to set the filter type as exclude, and then I can set it from my ISP address, for example, that is equals to, and you basically want to find out you basically want to go in and find your IP address, and then you just want to list them here, and then just click add. Okay, and then that will also depend on whether you have a fixed or dynamic IP. If you have a dynamic IP, this wouldn't work as well because your IP keep changing. Okay, but if you have a team that is using fixed IP, if you are using fixed IP, for example, you can exclude this. Now, the reason why I say this is optional is because, number one, if you have a small team, right, it's not going to matter that much because 1 or 2 or 3 people browsing your website internally, right, it's not going to cause like a major spike or a major differentiation with the real traffic that is coming into your website. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you have a big team, for example, then you might want to consider implementing something like this. Okay. Now, what I like to do is I like to you can see why I paused the video early on, because we don't do this. We don't do this. Like for me, I don't do this personally right now, but this is what I started with. And the thing that I'm doing right now is I basically go over to a Chrome extension that I'm using. So I believe it's Google Analytics opt out. Yeah. So I believe it's one of this that I'm using. Yeah, but for some reason, so this is the one that I'm using. Okay, so opt out. So basically, when you have this, right, what's gonna happen? It's again, you have to just include it. So what happens is this will basically opt out your Google Analytics. So for example, if you're going to any other Google Analytics, any other website that you're working on, it will automatically opt you out. So you won't be registered as a user. So that's what I'm using. So this gives me a lot more freedom because, like I mentioned, when we're working with clients, instead of us going into every single individual Google property to, to include our IP in, and if it's a dynamic IP, then we need to find another way around. So for me, I like to just install this Chrome extension, and then this will be just out of the way. Okay, so this is what I do. But if you have that, so I'm going to remove this. Okay, so if you have that, just include yes. And again, if you are just a one-person team and your team is not that big, you don't have to worry about this. But if you just want to set it up, you can as well. So for me, internal filtering, it's not set up. Okay, in this case, it's, for example, if it's a fail. Now, if it's a fail, do remember that all kind of tools and all kind of templates, you want to make sure that you are asking yourself smart questions. So if it's a fail, in this case, there's not really much that we can, there's not really anything that we can change, because we have already implemented this this solution here, right? So that doesn't mean if something is failed, that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad in a way. Okay, and in a way you can just include here as you have set up whatever your solution is. Okay, so in this case I have no, but I'm gonna set up GA opt out, for example. Okay, or no changes required, right? So the next one will be goals. Now, with goals, right, this will depend on what kind of objective your website is looking to get. So, for example, if you are a local business, say a massage parlor, right, your main job of your website is to generate leads. Okay, so that leads can be in a form of a phone call or can be in a form of a form submission. But whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that these goals are set up in your Google Analytics so that you know at the end of the day how many leads you're getting, how many phone calls you're getting, how many transactions you're getting, right? If you're an e-commerce store, that's what you would be looking at. So how you do that, it's if you are working for this on your own website, you would know that this goal has been set up or not. If you're not working for this if you're not doing this for your own website, then what you want to do is you want to go over to your admin panel, go over to goals, okay, and you can see these are some of the goals that you have set up. Now, do take note, every single time when you create a goal already, you will not be able to remove them. So it's okay if you are not, it's okay if you cannot remove them, because you can just turn the recording off. So what you want to do is you want to go in and make sure that your goals are set up. So depending on what goals you have. So if it's set up, just click yes. If it's not set up, then you want to click no. Okay, so in this case, mine is set up. I'm going to say, I don't have to say anything because it's set up. Now, if it's not set up, how you do it is very simple. You just click on new goal, and then you want to go, I like to use custom. And then for example, if it's an email lead, okay, and then I can put as a destination. That means whoever that lands on my thank you page will be considered a lead. And then I can just click continue, and then what is the thank you page URL. I can just list it down here, and then how much is it worth, and then funnel, I usually don't mess with this, and then I can click save. Okay, and that will basically register as a goal. Okay, the next thing you want to do is, once you've got that set up, you want to make sure that your goals are firing properly. Okay, and how you do that is very simple. Once you have set up your goal, all you do is go over to your website. Okay, over to maybe in an incognito mode, or if you are using a Google Analytics opt-out, you want to make sure that you disable that extension first. Or you can just use your mobile phone, for example. Okay, and you want to go in and you want to basically perform that goal. So if it's an email submission, you want to submit an email form on your website. And over at your analytics, you want to go to real time. Okay, real time overview. Okay, and what happens is, if somebody were to submit a form, essentially this is you testing out your form, right? If it works. So if somebody submit a form, right, what you're gonna do is you go over to conversions, you'll be able to see somebody converted, okay? And you will see one conversion. And if that happens, that means to say your goal conversion, your goal setup is fired properly. If it's not fired properly, then what you want to do is you want to click no, and that's where you want to go in and troubleshoot to see whether what is wrong. If it's your URL that you have included in your goal, it's wrong, or you have forgot to remove the internal filter for your personal traffic, but that will tell you that there's something wrong with your goal not firing properly. Okay, so in this case, mine is yes. Okay, and then next up will be, are there any events set up in goals? Now, if you have any events set up in goals, okay, usually, now this is really optional, because now we don't even mess with, we don't see this very common. But if you have set up events in goals, right? So let me go to this example. Okay, this is basically for personal preference. So events will mean to say, like, if it's a button click, for example. So I usually like to set it up in Google Tag Manager. That's why I don't like to set this up in goals, but if you want to, you can. So this option here, really, it's a personal option. It's just within our agency. Whenever somebody sets this up in goals, if it's a yes, we want to change this to migrating it over to tracking it in Google Tag Manager. So this is basically for preference sake. Okay, but however, this really depends on you. If you want to track your events in goals, you can as well. But for us, we like to track it in Google Tag Manager. Okay, so for me right now, I do not have any in my goals set up. So you can see over here, I don't have any events. Okay, so that's going to be a no. Now, if the website is e-commerce, so if it's yes, this will populate up, and then is e-commerce data set up? So if it's no, for me, I don't have to change it because mine is not an e-commerce site. But if you own an e-commerce site, what you want to do is you want to make sure that e-commerce data is set up. So e-commerce data, let me see, it's probably somewhere here. Yeah, so you can see e-commerce settings, okay, and you want to basically turn this on. Okay, so that is if you're e-commerce setup, right? So you can have more data with regards to your shopping carts and product pages and things like that. So with that done, right, what you will have is you will have a very clear cut of what is going on with your Google Analytics, if something is wrong or not, because like I mentioned earlier, Google Analytics is very important. You want to make sure that your Google Analytics is set up right so that your website has clean data to work with. So that is for Google Analytics. Now, when you are setting up, when you went through, when you finish this entire audit, you will already know, if now you don't have a Google Analytics, when you're setting up, you already know what things to take note on whether if your website has a subdomain, whether if your website has goals set up properly and things like that, right? So I think this will be really helpful whether you have a analytics set up or not, because you'll know what to look out for. So with that being said, that is for Google Analytics. Now in the next video, I'll be covering Google Search Console, which is one of my favorite tools when it comes to SEO. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you enjoy yourself in this video. I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, stay safe. Just peace.